Hello, friends. Welcome to the ATC Double Cut. In this episode, I am pleased to welcome back to the show Maggie Reiter, scientist at Sunday. Welcome to the show, Maggie.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
I am happy to have you back on the show to talk about some of the analytical or machine learning or data analysis or language processing work that you've been sharing on your blog. It's really interesting. And we'll start off by looking at the Twitter analysis. That's something that I used to do. And you sent me an email
Yeah.
and you said, Mike, I gave you a lot of shout outs in this blog post that I did where you were able to do something very similar to what I was doing, which was analyzing a whole bunch of tweets and a whole bunch of Twitter accounts. And so let's jump over to my blog, and eventually we'll get to your blog. This is a post with the title, A Brand New Turf Twitter Analysis, and you did this last autumn. And you called that Finding Turf Twitter. I will put a direct link to both of these in the show notes so that people can check them out. And you said you wanted to find high signal accounts. And I'm just curious, what prompted you to do this analysis?
I think exactly that. Like, Twitter has become quite degraded, or X. I keep calling it Twitter. And I think everybody sort of knows that. A lot of people have left the platform. A lot of people have become less active. But I still go on it quite frequently. And there is a lot of activity around like AI and tech and software development that I follow. And I've noticed that just there's a lot less turfgrass content out there. But I know there are still people that are creating high quality content. Every once in a while I see a great tweet and retweet it or something. And so I wanted to put like some energy into trying to curate who I'm following in my feed a little bit to try to refresh it from, where it's been in the last few years and try to find some of these, what I call high signal accounts, or people that are tweeting high quality content.
And so you did this by you found like a Python package that could scrape this. Is that how you did
Yeah,
that?
I call it like an open source Python package or library, and it basically works by kind of. I think it's doing some type of front end sort of browser exploration, but I had to set it up in a way where I signed into my Twitter account. I went and I got the like cookies and everything for my browser, and I had to input those into the like functions that I was using, and then I was able to go and just make a bunch of requests to get who I'm following, who they are following, their recent tweets, and then kind of the whole network of the retweets and connections and replies and all of that. It took a very long time, but that package was like key to being able to do this, because as you've said, and as you know, the sort of official Twitter API is it's like it's so expensive that we would never be able to possibly use it. It costs like thousands of dollars per month to have access to something official like that.
Yeah, maybe tens of thousands of dollars per month.
Yeah.
I did this up until about 2022, and then it was just they changed the rules, and it was what was freely accessible became tens of thousands of dollars. So I stopped doing my analysis.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting though that you found like a total of 115,298 unique accounts in this network. But when you narrow it down to the turfgrass content, you find 4,776 accounts. And
Yeah.
that's similar to what I was finding back when I was doing this analysis in what we might call the heyday of turf Twitter, when there were more people posting more frequently. I was always surprised when I'd narrow it down to like, I put various filters on, like you had to have, I can't remember exactly, like 6 tweets within the past year or something. And and obviously I was limiting it in certain ways to, you had to follow certain turfgrass accounts, kind of as a check. That's what I was using as a check to see if I was going to classify that as a turfgrass account. And I was getting numbers that were also in the 4, 5, 6, 7,000 account range. And I always thought, like, it seems like the global town square, but when you really narrow it down, that's not very many accounts. When you look at how many golf courses there are in the United States, for example.
Well, so how many is that? There's like 16,000, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that. So, and then you
Yeah.
look at, okay, so how many staff are working at those golf courses on average?
Well, it would be probably, I mean, hundreds of thousands of staff, sure, but like I would say in turfgrass management leadership positions, tens of thousands probably, right?
Yeah, if you look at the GCSAA, I think the GCSAA has upwards of 20,000 members.
Okay.
And so that's just in the United States. And then if we look at other places with a big turfgrass industry, like various countries in Europe or Australia or New Zealand, and just go around the world, we realize that the number of people that aren't just like working, but they're in like a management level role
Yeah.
is much more than 4, 5, 6, 7,000. I just always thought, like, okay, how much time should we devote to this? It's easy now that I'm not using Twitter so much, to say, yeah, it's good I'm not devoting so much time for this because it's not really reaching that many people.
You think I am, I don't know. I feel the opposite. I am excited about content and Twitter. And, this is why I made a website and have a blog now, and that it is just like it's very high leverage sort of activity. Even making tweets that might disappear into the timeline, like it's very like high sort of leverage activity, and it's very high visibility, and it helps you in your business or your personal pursuits.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. But if the anyway, so you made a ranking, and let's jump over to your page. So here's your post, Finding Turf Twitter. I'm showing that on the screen now. I know a lot of you are listening to this, so we'll describe what we're seeing. So you made this blog post. It's an 18-minute read, so it goes into a lot of detail about how you did this, and you conclude by finding active accounts that you rank as being, if we just go all the way down to the end, you find that they're talking about turf grass, contributing a mix of original content, and being positive.
Yes.
And if we go all the way to the end, the way that you sorted it was
You have
how
to
did you choose the top accounts?
You have to click that drop down arrow. So I had a score that was generated, but there were a lot of ties on these scores. So I had, for the tiebreaker, what I did was I put in that column of mutual followers. And so I ranked them by whoever had the most mutual followers between me and them.
So so a score of 1, okay.
That's
So
perfect. They had, of all their tweets that I fetched for them, they were about turfgrass and they were positive. And they also had some level of like replies or retweets. So they were engaging with others. They weren't just posting.
okay. Okay.
Does that make
And
sense?
yeah. Yep, that makes sense. And you said that many of the accounts turned out to be business accounts, and I'm looking at this and seeing a lot of people, also a lot of accounts in the UK.
Yeah. So a lot of the top accounts are like business or brand accounts, right? Like the Toro company. And it kind of makes sense. Of course, they're going to be tweeting things professionally, right? They're going to be positive. It's going to be on topic. And so that's why I wanted it, they really dominated the top of the list, and I wanted actual individuals, or even accounts that were run by maybe one person.
Hmm.
So that's why I split these into the top 50 business accounts and the top 50 non-business accounts, so I could find more actual individuals and bring them to the top.
And have you had much response to this as after you made that post?
Response to the blog?
Yeah, response to the blog or response to your tweet about the blog?
No, no, not really. And I'll say too, I said I was gonna, okay, I'm gonna follow all these people. I'm gonna kind of change my like following list and try to change my timeline. And I don't know if it's made that big of a difference yet, but I will keep going.
Yeah.
No,
So
I think this response was just like, this is interesting, and thanks for curating this list, kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, I just feel because Twitter or X, they show the number of views that your tweets get, right?
Yeah.
So you see that.
Yep.
So that's something that I've followed for a number of years, and my numbers have just plummeted. And of course, I
Yeah.
can also track what the clicks are, and so the reason why I'm so negative about it and just say this is not really worth my time to spend a lot of time on this platform or share a lot of content on this platform is because the trend is all in the wrong direction. So if your views are a quarter or 20% of what they used to be, and you're getting a fraction of the number of clicks through from, because I use it as information, or I did use it as an information sharing source, or an information sharing platform, and it just hasn't really. For a while, it was increasing, and then it goes the other direction. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus my time doing other stuff. But I I take like that you don't get a huge response to it as sort of like I think it kind of is dead. That's my feeling.
I think turf Twitter is close to dead. I mean, it's very dull compared to what it was. But this is why I did this blog post of, I was actually amazed at how many like good accounts there are out there. And you had said before of a lot from the European contingent. So like I really was not aware of that at all. So I followed them and I see a little bit of more of that now. So that's interesting. And I think they're doing a little bit better over there, possibly.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. So anybody who is interested in X and Twitter, check this out. It's a list of some of the best accounts right now, and this is something that I think many of you may be quite interested in. And now let's jump to another very interesting blog post that you have, because I guess what would you describe your blog analysis focus as? I mean, is it what type
The
of
entire website, or just this blog, this one article?
no, just the type of analyses you do. So not this specific one, but uh, it's it's sort of like data analysis. It's sort of
Yeah,
like big data analysis, but you must be able to describe it better than me.
I would call it data science, AI, and machine learning. And a little bit of software development. Like I can make interactive like apps on the site. And I have been doing a lot of the natural language processing work. So working with text data.
Yeah, so now you've been doing a lot of stuff with text, right? Like
Yeah,
that is what it seems like to
yeah,
me. So I wanted to
yeah.
look at the post you made in December. Let's see. That one has a title, What 380 Turfgrass Researchers Are Working On in 2025. And this one, this is like, to me, it's pretty clear that you're just doing a text analysis.
Yeah.
of all of the abstracts submitted to what is that called? It's like sometimes I've heard it called the crop science meetings or the
Well,
agronomy meetings.
to get a lot of this, they're rebranding it a little bit. So the acronym now is Canvas as of this last year, and I don't know what it stands for. I still call it crop science meetings or tri societies. And so there's an acronym for all the three societies there.
Yeah, so we've got the American Society of Agronomy. Some of you may be aware that Charles Vancouver Piper, who is one of the leading turfgrass experts, leading grass experts in the United States many, many years ago, the co-author of the book Turf for Golf Courses, and the first chairman, director, something of the USGA Green Section. He's a former president of the American Society of Agronomy. And also it's the Crop Science Society of America and the Soil Science Society of America. So these are three of the leading scientific associations, and they hold a tri-societies meeting, and people make presentations, and they don't submit a full scientific paper. They either present a poster or they make a 15-minute talk, and to accompany those posters or those presentations that they make, they write an abstract that summarizes the research results. So these are kind of like preliminary results of what people are working on right now before they reach the end of the experiment. Is that
Yeah, I think
appropriate
that's right.
description?
Yeah, that's what I would consider it as. And I think of this meeting, this conference, as like the kind of number one turfgrass academic conference of the year. Whereas like the GCSAA conference would be like the number one golf conference of the year. I say it's the biggest turf academic conference in North America because I'm not sure if there's others elsewhere in the world. Are there?
Uh, there is the European Turfgrass Society Conference,
Mhm.
which I believe is not held every year, and that is a smaller conference than this.
Yeah.
And then you have the International Turfgrass Society Conference, which is superb. However, it is not quite the same as this either in terms of size. So this one is pretty good. I have to ask. I often see the abstracts, and they're saying like people submit a preliminary abstract, and they say, okay, results to be provided later or something.
That is a big problem.
And
Yes.
so even by the time the conference rolls around, do some people fail to update their
Yes.
abstracts?
Yes, it's a big problem. But if you're listening, please, you have to finish, like you have to update your abstract. There were some that I had to throw out that still said TBD. That's the only thing that was written on the abstract was TBD in a title. I guess they had their title and it said TBD, and I threw them out of this analysis. And yeah, it's a problem, I think.
Yeah, because I was looking at some of the words that got included in it, and there were misspelling, like ppn must be a misspelling of parts per million, and I was just like, that was in your outlier category, and then it's like,
Well,
okay, probably some things are not fully updated.
that I don't know if there's typos necessarily. I got to find out where that came from. Hold on. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna look for PPN across all of the abstracts. Yeah, so yes, it's an acronym that's in one abstract. It's plant parasitic nematodes,
Oh
PPN.
wow.
So it's
Okay, so
mentioned
it's
in the
not a
text.
typo.
Yeah,
Oh wow, cool.
right. So
Okay.
that's a new one, PPN.
Okay, so this is called. I hear like natural language processing, and I hear
Hmm.
like text analysis, or maybe I think of this as text analysis. Um, so
That makes
what?
sense.
So
So
let's
I'd say like
see.
natural language processing is like the field or the area of AI where all of this text analysis kind of lives. And it's like I think a lot of people in our industry are familiar with where you can take a picture and computer vision. So you take a picture of your drone picture of your golf course or something, can look at this picture, analyze this picture, and get information from it. This is similar in that we have a body of text, or we have all this unstructured text. We can look at it with machine learning and we can get information on, like, understand what people are saying or what's similar, or sentiment or things like that. And then related is our large language models, right? So like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. I think most people are familiar with those at this point. And they have similar architectures in the way that they work with text to some of this stuff that we're looking at here on clustering the abstracts.
So was this 380 authors or 380? It's 199 abstracts,
Yep.
380 authors.
Yes.
Okay, so you take that full text and you provide it to the model, and then you identified these clusters of different topics where there's like 10 abstracts on a certain topic, such as disease management and fungicides. And that's the highest score. So it's much more likely to be about disease management and fungicides than it is about traffic tolerance and recovery, for example.
Yeah, you got it. So each of those 200 abstracts becomes it's a document. And so what we do is we go and we plot out all these documents in this embedding space. So like you can look at them in a visualization like this, and it's clustering the abstracts that have similar meaning. And then it will look at the clusters and it will choose the representative words for that cluster. And that's kind of how I got to that title. But and that's where you see the list of the words and the outliers, or the list of the top words for each cluster. Those are like words that are distinct to that cluster.
Okay, so what I'm showing on the screen now is a table that has the representation column there that has words such as, let's go down to genomic, genome, genetic, QTL, haplotype, ploidy, markers, breeding, LF, diversity. That one is classified as a topic as turfgrass genomics and breeding. So does that mean that those words that are found in those abstracts allow that to be classified as turfgrass genomics and breeding?
Well, I guess there's a pipeline of models that are being used for this. So first we take the abstracts, we turn them into embeddings or numerical representations. Then we cluster those in like the visualization you saw at the top. Then we have the clusters that are just like, cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3. But to describe those clusters, then what we do is we look at the abstracts just within there. Like there's 15 abstracts in cluster 3. Looks at those and it finds the top keywords, and which keywords are distinct to that cluster that are not part of any of the other groups or topic clusters. You know what I'm saying? So like the genomic, genome, genetic, those don't appear as frequently elsewhere across other abstracts and other
So
clusters.
it's like you're finding the clusters first, and then you're going into the clusters and finding which words are more common in certain clusters and less common in other clusters.
Yeah, and it's just a way for us to describe the cluster. So we generate those top 10 words there. We could pick the top 5 words. We could do top 20 words or something. But that gives you a quick look, and you can tell by looking at it. Like, okay, genomic, genome, like that's about breeding. The other one's sand, putting, top dressing. That's about putting green management or maintenance.
That's right. So it sounds like really complicated, but it's just the computer doing things that the computer can do more easily than people. So we could sort this probably if you and I sat down and said, let's take a month and work on this full time, we could probably do this ourselves, but the computer can do it a lot faster.
Yeah. And that's why we are using a computer for this. I mean, honestly, there's 200 abstracts. We could probably read them all and sort them all out. But these same methods can be applied to, volumes of millions of abstracts or something.
And that's where it's fun to do this type of work. And it's interesting to figure out what was being researched the most, or what research results were being presented the most at the 2025 conference. And I was surprised to see soil amendments and soil testing
Yeah.
number one, because I've heard Travis Shaddix. I've seen a few clips from his videos, and he's saying that nobody's doing research on soil testing. Well, he's doing research on it, but he's not the only one. That was actually number one. So that's interesting.
I'm surprised by this. Last year, and let me say too, like, so what happened was, if we looked at last year's, or I guess it's now it's the 2024 abstracts. The top topic was like remote sensing and machine learning applications. And then I think soils and soil testing was number 5 or 6. It was lower. And then there was also a really small but specific cluster about carbon sequestration and measuring carbon sequestration, because there was actually a special symposium about that. So those abstracts got clustered into that really small niche topic. Now this year, the remote sensing stuff has become so big, such a huge part of turfgrass research, that it's broken apart. It broke apart. So it broke into, I gotta look back at mine. You took that off the screen, but
I'll,
it
I'll
broke
put
into
it. Yeah.
like
So that
vision.
was really cool. I'll put that back
Go
on
back.
the
Go
screen.
back. Okay, thank you. It
So
it broke into remote sensing of soil moisture,
mhm,
and then the precision weed detection, like computer vision and weed detection.
that's right.
And the soil thing became the soil stuff, I'm calling it, became number
Hmm.
one. But my question for you is like, okay, at what point in what you would consider in doing topic modeling like this is like, at what point would you start to break apart the soil stuff into smaller subtopics?
Yeah,
Um,
I would. I I think yeah, you've got soil nutrition, and then you've got other stuff. So I would break soil nutrition or turfgrass nutrition into its own category.
well, wait, tell me, what does that mean? Nutrition, like, you mean fertilizing?
Yeah, I would say like fertilizing and soil testing.
Is distinctly different from soil amendments, carbon sequestration and management.
I think carbon, I would give its own category, carbon
Okay.
sequestration. But again, these are subjective things that
Yeah.
people decide, and that's where it's hard to just like let the model, like the model might make some suggestions, but in the end, we have to decide like how do we want to classify this.
Yeah.
Just like the remote sensing, you could have like forced it to put everything into one category, but it gets so big, and then
Yeah.
you decide that there's two distinct clusters, one about weeds and one about remote sensing of soil moisture.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. There is a lot of there's still a lot of human touch that goes into this. I run the computer system and run the models. They will come up with all the topic clusters. But what I actually did was I merged a lot of them. This is my preference. I prefer to change the kind of hyperparameters. I make it produce a lot of topics, like 30 or so. And then I manually go and I merge some of them. And this is sort of my final result, what we're looking at here.
'Cause I'm looking at the table again that shows the category of putting green maintenance, which is sand, ball roll distance, putting, top dressing, greens, firmness, sand top dressing,
Mhm.
biochar, layer, because that's got some organic matter management stuff in it, and it's got some like biochar
Mhm.
is going to be carbon sequestration. So that one, the putting green maintenance category, which is number 4, has some overlap with number 1,
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I think that makes
But
sense.
these groupings, I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing this. I think it's fine to group it like this, and then we can just get the general idea of, wow, I would have thought that disease management and fungicides would have been maybe 25%, but it's only 8% of the abstract. So there's a lot of other research going on, not just
Oh
about
yeah.
disease management and fungicides.
Well, and I'll say too, if you look at where the actual clusters occur in that, like the two-dimensional figure at the top, the soil amendments and soil testing one cluster is very close and even has some overlap with putting green maintenance. So you're exactly
Yeah,
right.
that's right. So actually, when we're doing this and plotting it in this way, the distance between the points shows how similar or dissimilar they are.
Right.
So the precision weed detection is very far from the disease management and fungicides, for example. It's also very far from putting green management. So they're quite dissimilar. So the distances between the points in these topic clusters really shows the similarity. So
Yeah.
you could like group everything at the top, like disease management and fungicides is really close to soil amendments and
Yeah.
recycled wastewater irrigation and putting green management. So you could group that all together as like practical management of turf grass or something.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And turf grass genomics and breeding is often its own little corner there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's it's not so much related to management as it is related to developing new varieties.
Right. Right.
Okay, very good. You mentioned that you may have a couple grass questions for me. Is now a good time for
Oh, sure.
those?
Yeah. So I was in Hawaii for the last 10 days, and these are some warm season grass questions. In fact, I should call it like tropical warm season grass questions that I had when I was there, and so I've been saving them up to ask you. So the first one is looking at different. So a lot of walk. I did a lot of walking around, mostly hotels and resorts, but I went to some cemeteries, many parks and beaches where there's all sorts of lower maintenance lawns. There's oyster grass, there's Bermuda grass, there's St. Augustine grass. There is some kikuyu grass there too, at higher elevations. I saw that. I There was many streets or one side of the street would be zoysia grass and the other side of the street would be Bermuda grass. And I know it's because where the Bermuda grass occurred, it's drier or hotter or windier or something like that. And the zoysia grass occurs in shadier areas. And then, so that's how I think of zoysia grass versus Bermuda grass. Then when I see Bermuda grass and St. Augustine grass occurring side by side in the same landscape, you'll see more Bermuda grass in the sun and more St. Augustine grass in the shade. And I see that a lot in places like Florida too. But what I'm not sure about is the difference between zoysia grass and St. Augustine grass as far as where they occur. And I don't recall seeing them like side by side in the same park or the same beach lawn. How do you consider those sort of ecological niches of those two?
That's a really good question, and I don't have a good answer because most of my experience with spending time in tropical parks and tropical lawns and so on is in Southeast Asia. And in Southeast Asia, there's not so much St. Augustine grass. So I've pondered the question, why is there not so much St. Augustine grass? Or in Australia, this is called buffalo grass, and the scientific name Stenotaphrem secundatum. And and I think the reason why there's not so much St. Augustine grass is I suppose that St. Augustine grass just doesn't do quite as well at the really high temperatures. Honolulu's maybe almost 20 degrees north of the equator. Let me look up the latitude. It's going to be warmer in Singapore or in Bangkok than it is in Honolulu.
Yeah, it's like 21 degrees.
That's 21 degrees. So, Bangkok's 13 degrees, Manila's 13 degrees, Singapore is 0. So as you get closer to the equator, it's just warmer all year round. And What I see is the St. Augustine grass doesn't compete as well as Ixonopus compressus, tropical carpet grass, in those kind of temperatures.
Okay.
Okay, so the reason why
Yeah.
I can't answer your question is I haven't seen what I've seen is zoysia grass and tropical carpet grass growing side by side, and then I can say what it's going to take for zoysia grass to dominate, what it's going to take for Ixonopus compressus to dominate. So what we'll see in places like Florida are not as hot as it is in Singapore or in Bangkok or in Manila, and places like Honolulu are not quite as hot. And so I think what we see growing in parks and stuff, once it's grasses that are just growing natively there and spreading naturally through the landscape, you'll see zoysia and tropical carpet grass in a tropical environment. And as you get into slightly cooler tropical areas, like where have I seen St. Augustine grass growing wild? In Mauritius, which is 20 degrees south latitude. So it's more similar to a Hawaii type of temperature regime. And you see where there's a lot of St. Augustine grass is in places like Texas and Florida and Queensland and New South Wales, places that are, if they're tropical, they're not like close to the equator type of tropical. And so,
Well,
unfortunately, I can't answer the question.
well, that's a good answer. But but I mean, what I thought zoysia grass was cold tolerant, like known for being remarkably cold tolerant relative to some of those other grasses.
Zoysia japonica is the
Uh-huh.
most cold tolerant. And so, zoysia has different species. Zoysia japonica, which is quite
Mhm.
cold tolerant, and you can find it growing a little bit. It'll grow wild on Long Island, for example, if it gets enough
Right.
water. And then you have Zoysia matrella, and then you have Zoysia pacifica, and you get progressively finer leaf blades and progressively worse cold tolerance as you go from japonica to matrella to pacifica.
Oh, okay.
And so what you're seeing in Hawaii, I know there is a little bit of Zoysia japonica in Hawaii, but the stuff that looks
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
is going to be a matrella or maybe even a pacifica. If you go to Hilo, for example, on the Big Island, you can find golf course putting greens of that are I would just call it matrella, but it's a fine bladed
Hmm.
matrella.
Okay. Um, okay, good. And then here's my next question. This, and you brought this up, this carpet grass. So that's all over the place, like low maintenance lawns, cemeteries. I don't know that much about this grass. I feel like it's not a part of like my undergraduate curriculum. And is it because, so how do you say the scientific name?
Com-
Axonopus?
compresses.
Okay. It's a broadleaf plant?
No, it's a grass,
Okay.
but I call it tropical grass, tropical carpet grass, because I think the name sounds better. But other synonyms for this are like cow grass, elephant grass, or broadleaf carpet grass. And I think those
Yeah.
names make it sound worse. But if I call
Okay.
it tropical carpet grass, which is also an appropriate synonym for it, I think that sounds better. The scientific name is Ixonopus compressus. This grass doesn't have rhizomes, so it's not so great for sporting surfaces because it doesn't have rhizomes.
Okay.
And
That was my
and
question. Yeah.
and so you just won't find it anywhere that it gets very cold. So it will go dormant. It'll survive a winter in Hong Kong, but it doesn't like the traffic in winter. And you can find it in Okinawa, but you won't find it in places where there's frost. So the reason why it's not in textbooks is most of the textbooks are written in America. And in most of America, even you go to Southern California, they get frost. You go to Texas, they'll get frost. You go to Florida, they can still get frost. And so
Wow.
this is really a tropical grass, and it it just doesn't grow in places where there's frost, from
Okay.
what I've seen.
I feel like I've only seen it in Hawaii, maybe a little bit in Florida. But well, so my question about this is kind of that in general, how does it exist? And then can it be managed to any level of performance, like for a sporting surface? Like how low could it be mowed? Like, can you fertilize it? Like what?
Yeah, it's a beautiful grass. I quite like it. I've seen it as a weed invading golf course putting greens that are mown at golf course putting green height. So it and if you cut it shorter and if you put growth regulators on it, you can have the leaf blade will get a little bit smaller because the leaves tend to, when you cut it short and put traffic on it, the leaves will creep along the ground. Um, it it how to say, I don't know, it looks strange to people who are familiar with Kentucky bluegrass or who are familiar with Bermuda grass and those kind of finer leaves, but it's a nice green surface that
Yeah.
can tolerate shade equal to St. Augustine grass. I would say in the tropical environment, it's a little bit better. There's a little bit of research from Singapore, from their National Parks Board, where they've done research and from their research, they're ranking St. Augustine grass as having better shade tolerance than tropical carpet grass. However, I look at the reality of tropical carpet grass spreads and persists in the wild across a wide geographic region, and St. Augustine grass does not. So practically, I'm ranking the tropical carpet grass as being better. If we go to Royal Colombo Golf Club, for example, in Sri Lanka, and again, I think now we're talking about maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees north of the equator. So it's a climate where the day lengths are very similar through the year, and your temperatures are very similar through the year. There is a little bit of St. Augustine grass that we can find at Royal Colombo Golf Club, and it's been there for the past decade at least, and it just doesn't spread, and it grows relatively sparsely, whereas the fairways and the rough are dominated by tropical carpet grass that provides a much better ground cover. And so I'm looking in those environments, if the St. Augustine grass was really better than tropical carpet grass, I would expect it to spread and to cover more of the ground year after year, and it does not.
Right. Okay. Well, in the tropical carpet grass, how is it propagated? By seed or
No. I should interject here for anybody still listening to this that there's another carpet grass called narrow leaf carpet grass or common carpet grass, which is Ixonopus affinis, or sometimes it's Ixonopus fisifolius. And I'm not sure, those are scientific synonyms. I'm not sure which one is the most updated. So this common carpet grass does grow in the American Southeast. It's got a slightly narrower leaf than does tropical carpet grass. And
yeah, this is where I got confused, and this is where I was like, I'll ask you. Um, okay,
well,
go
here,
ahead.
let me I will look on my website and I will have a tag for tropical carpet grass and we can look at
Like I will just search it on Google, and there's images of different grasses for sure, like different grasses. So that's why I was like, what is this even called?
yeah, so I've got
Okay.
I show a post now, tropical carpet grass on putting, and I'm showing on the screen now. I can't really make that any bigger, but
I can see it. I know
so
what.
this
Yeah.
is seashore paspalum around the outside, and then there's a golf ball sitting on the tropical carpet grass. So it can tolerate that type of
Okay.
that type of mowing height. And I've got a blog post, grass in a tropical park, and I will show, this one will have a picture that will get a little bit bigger. Let's see. So here's just the common Thai type of Manila grass, and that is a tropical carpet grass leaf blade in the top right. So at the top right, you see the kind of the shiny leaf. There's 3 of those leaves, and it has a wave on it. That's
Yeah.
tropical carpet grass. And if we then look at tropical carpet grass, this is what it looks like. And so this is in a park where they'll run a weed eater or a string trimmer across it and cut it down to ground level and then let it grow up to about 2 inches or 50 millimeters or so, and then they'll cut it back down with a string trimmer. But if you maintain it like a fairway or as a lawn, it's quite nice. But it does look strange to people who are not accustomed to seeing grasses with leaf blades that are this wide. And they often consider it to be hideous. But I'm saying if you're under a tree, would you rather have dirt or would you rather have this? And then if you mow it frequently, it can look even better than that. And the seeds look like that.
Wait, so this is it I forget if you said, is it propagated by seed or
No, it's not. It's not. It's propagated by sod.
oh, okay. Then how
So
does it spread?
it would spread by seed and by stolons.
Okay.
But as far as I know, the seed is not harvested commercially anywhere in the world.
Okay. Yeah.
But these types of, it's a stoloniferous grass. So if you take a chunk of it and you rip it into little pieces, you can easily establish a sod from it.
Okay. This is great information. I feel like this does not exist on the internet, like a clear summary like you just gave.
Can you please tell the internet to look at the Asian Turfgrass Center website, and if you look at the carpet grass tag, I've got a number of photos of carpet grass.
Tropical carpet grass.
Yeah. So, and you asked, like, can this be a good sporting surface? So this golf course, Whack Whack in Manila, those fairways are tropical carpet grass on the East course. And this is a golf course in Krabi in southern Thailand. So the putting green is zoysia and everywhere else is carpet grass. So it's the grass. You don't see St. Augustine grass when you get into certainly tropical Asia. You just don't see it. You can buy it. It will grow, but it doesn't spread like this one does.
Okay.
So, yeah, good questions. I quite like this grass. Lots of people don't like it, and they want something like, well, we'd rather grow Bermuda grass, but I would rather grow this that grows better generally.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, like I said, it seems like it does well with very low inputs.
Yeah,
None. I mean, just
you
mowing. Yeah.
yeah, you can fertilize it. You can put fertilize it. You can put growth regulator on it. Yeah, it's on the rough of the old course at Hong Kong Golf Club, but you won't find it much north of that. And you can find it in Hawaii. You can find it a little bit in Okinawa. But even in Okinawa, in southern Japan, it gets cool enough in the winter that now you start seeing St. Augustine grass. So you'll see St. Augustine grass growing wild in Okinawa. And those kind of grasses, like that's a tropical climate, but just kind of barely tropical. It's bordering on subtropical.
Okay.
So Maggie, anything else?
Mm.
Maybe can we talk about one more of your blog posts really quick, and
Oh,
then we'll
sure.
wrap this up because I think it's you brought something to everyone's attention on your blog that I think is very important, which is a estimate of how much water a site should use based on the weather conditions that are experienced. And let me look up this one on your blog. This one is benchmarking golf course irrigation with the USGA water model. And that's from September last year. And this one also has your embedded, some of your software development where you're embedding like a calculator or the users can input their location and get a result from right
I'd call
within the
it,
website.
I'd call it a web app. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
So,
more than a calculator.
so if we jump ahead to what this is, the USGA model is using this equation. It's the irrigation requirement is the crop times the evapotranspiration, the reference evapotranspiration, minus the precipitation times the rainfall coefficient, because you get some runoff. Not all of the precipitation that you get can be considered as effective for plant use. So when you do that, you can figure out on a per area basis if that is put down on per acre, or per square meter, or per hectare. You can figure out what is the expected plant use of water, and you subtract the amount that's supplied by rainfall, and the difference of that, of course, is the amount that you would need to apply as irrigation. This is something that I think is very useful to figure out how much water should you use. If you're planting a new lawn and you want to know how much water am I going to need to irrigate this lawn, you can do this type of water budget. If you're looking at a golf course and saying how efficiently am I using water, you can look at this type of water budget.
Yeah, so this was inspired by a new research paper that came out. Michael Becken is the first author on it, where they use this formula and this calculation to compute the annual water need for a variety of locations, or across the whole, I think, Great Lakes region or something. No, it was different states, but then they actually went to golf courses and got their water use, their annual water use, like ground truth measurements, and compared them. And it showed that they tried a variety of different calculations, different water budget calculators. And this USGA one was the simplest and the most accurate for some of the key regions, which are like the Northeast and the Midwest and the Great Lakes area. So I thought that was very surprising. Like it is so simple. Like you just verbally explain the formula. There's like four numbers that you might need. And it's really effective and it's really accurate. I feel like so I wrote this up to kind of make it a little easier to calculate these numbers for the two states pictured here, Minnesota and Wisconsin. I think when we think about golf course water use, this is where you should start. This is like the very starting point, is to look at this, look at your local climate and what you just said, of figure out how much water you actually need to use, and then look at how much you're using. Diagnose if it's more, diagnose if it's less, and why that would be.
So I encourage everybody to check this out. I put a link to your website, and I'll put a link to all of these posts that we've discussed in the show notes so everybody can get to them directly. But that's maggiereiter.com. And if you go to the blog, you can find this. And I want to mention one more thing about this type of irrigation water requirement. If you are a Pace Turf member, you can go to the top of your weather page, and this is part of the climate analysis that's provided by Pace Turf for your site. So we calculate this for your location for the past 5 years, looking at the precipitation and looking at the evapotranspiration for your site. So this is something where you can look at how much water you've actually used, and you can compare that to the amount of water that is predicted to be used based on your evapotranspiration and your precipitation at your site. So
You
you can
should,
get that at paceturf.org.
if you only for members,
It's only for members.
well, you should make that free. You should make that free on the website for everyone.
If we get 1,000 more members, I'll make it free.
Okay.
Yeah.
And well, I was just going to ask you the way that you calculate it for your subscribers are you using these exact same like constants, and I just use 0.8 for the crop coefficient for cool season grasses. How do you determine that?
Yeah, I'm going to have to check the code. I know in conversations with Larry Stowell, Larry wrote this that
Okay.
does the current calculation, and I'm in the process of making some updates to it. So I'm going to be digging through the code.
Mm,
I believe that we're using a crop coefficient of 1 because Larry told me that because of the how do we say because irrigation systems don't apply water so
right.
efficiently,
Right.
right? So the distribution uniformity, right? So you've got real problems with distribution uniformity. So Larry said that if we use this type of crop coefficient correction, it ends up making the number too low, especially in drier climates where people have to apply irrigation frequently. And so he said it would not be a good idea to set the target values too
Mm,
low when people have an irrigation system that can't apply water efficiently. Does that make, because the irrigation requirement is the let's say it doesn't rain, right? So your irrigation requirement is the evapotranspiration, the reference evapotranspiration times the crop coefficient, and you take
mhm.
that value, you divide it by the distribution uniformity
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get how much water you apply. So the fact that so Larry said to be practical, we should just use a reference evapotranspiration of 1,
Hmm.
or just use the reference evapotranspiration. So it's my understanding that when I dig into the code, that's what it's going to say.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. But this is something that as I make some updates as a marketing tool for Pace Turf, I may
Yes.
make some examples. For example, in fact, I'll bring up the Pace Turf website.
You could get so many like leads off of make it free, have people come in and get their water budget, and then get their contact information or something, and then convert them into a subscriber.
That I I agree with you. I agree with you. So if we go to the Pace Turf website and I'm going to check, I don't go for free, but so if we go to the University Field Days page, by the way, if you got a field day coming up, let me know. Right now, I've only got the Clemson Turfgrass Field Day on here for the calendar for 2026. But I would hope that people can let me know, so I'll add this. So if we go to the University Research Location Climate Appraisals, this is going to show, it's not showing the water requirement. So this is a subset, the type of analyses that clients get. But I think, or it's a subset of the analysis, the climate appraisal that's provided to PaceTurf members. But I think I could add a column to this and show this for all of the university sites. So that would be something that I'd easily make freely available.
Okay, I'll take it.
You take it, yeah. All right, yeah. It's tricky because I think like information should be free.
Mhm.
For it's hard to say how do you make information free and how do you also make money, because I can do a lot of stuff and just provide it for free, but
Yeah.
sometimes I have to make a living too.
How many well, I'll ask you later. What the business model is for Pace Turf subscriptions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I will tell you, yeah, we have members all over the world. So let me show you in the gallery. Um, let's see. So not everybody here has renewed. Okay, but this is where around the world, each of these is a site within the past 5 years where we've had a Pace Turf member. So nobody in South America, and the Caribbean's a bit lacking, but certainly Australia and New Zealand are well represented, a little bit in Asia, a little bit in the Middle East, quite a few in Europe, across Europe and Southern Europe, Northern Europe, and all throughout the United States and Canada. So I'll hear Frank. I heard him on his podcast. No, it was in the TurfNet year-end review webinar. And he said, Micah Woods, who's now has Pace Turf in the Western United States. And it's like, okay, but Pace Turf may be headquartered in the Western United States, but we have clients all over the world, or members all over the world. So I'm quite interested in weather stuff and how we can provide nice climate information, site climate appraisals for our clients all over the world, because the weather has such a huge impact on what type of grass is going to perform well and the challenges that you will face, and on the the difficulties and the good growing seasons and the difficult times of the year. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Maggie. That was a lovely conversation. And unfortunately, I have so much fun talking with you about these kind of technical topics that we run way past the amount of time that I actually allotted for this.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up. Anything else before we go?
No. Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Keep up the good work. Every time I get a notice, I'm subscribed to your blog by email. So every time there's a new post, I get an email from you saying there's a new post, and I'm like, wow, awesome. I love blogging. I like that better than social media. So when people put the content, the effort into writing a blog and then putting that information out there, yours are some of the best, the most interesting ones for me to read. So thanks for doing that. I hope you keep it up and keep up the good work.
Okay, you too.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching, for listening. I will be back soon with more interesting turfgrass information. For now, I will sign off for ATC from Hokuriku, Japan. I'm Micah Woods. Bye-bye.